Welcome back to my YouTube channel, guys. Today, very exciting news. I have some Americans on here. We have Annabelle from Chicago, and we have Denise and Chris from North Carolina, and they're just here to ask their specific questions about what it might be like moving overseas or to New Zealand specifically, and that sort of thing. So let's get right into questions. Okay, Denise and Chris, if you just wanted to shout out a couple questions, we'll go there and we'll just go around.
You want to do one?
Yeah, I can't read your writing.
Oh. So we have 4 kids. I understand you have 4 kids. Our kids are roughly the same age.
Oh, okay.
What info or data did you use to pick the schools that you have them in?
Oh, good question. So if you're thinking about coming to Wellington, so that's easy. I can talk specifically about Wellington. So you have 2, if you're the similar ages, and you'd have 2 that's in like high school age.
We'll have one. We have one that would be year 9. I think she'd be year 9. She's 13.
Okay.
So our kids are 13, 11, almost 10, and 6.
Oh, okay. Great. So yeah, so you'll have, 1 in high school. Just, I can explain that. And then 2 in intermediate school, and then 1 in primary school is what it would end up being. And so depending on the school, some of the schools will have where would intermediate and high school together, which is a lot of them, especially if you go to a private school, or, which would be kind of nice if they're coming in to not have to change again in a year, right? And then your youngest will be, I have a 9-year-old. So yeah, just the primary school that they're in, they'll be in for a couple of years. So that's good. So I guess my recommendation for you were to pick something that has year 7 through year 13. So pick one that has, so then you can, not have to move them a lot, because it's just a lot of changes. What I really kind of recommend for people, and I have lots of friends that are new here as well, and I just say, you have to go to the school and check it out, and you have to feel the culture of the school, because the way that New Zealand is different than the US is that the curriculum is the same no matter what school you go to anywhere in the country. So your curriculum is the same. So it's very different than the US. Whereas like if you're going to a private school in the US, you can get a totally different education, right? If you go to a different state in the US, you're getting a totally different education, right? And so here, the whole country, there's like a minister of education, and they do the whole thing. And so then for me, when I came, was like, well, why in the world would I send my kid to private school if the education is the same? Like, why would I do that? And so really the best way that someone explained it to me is it's 2 things. It's the culture of the school, because some emphasize drama and dance, some emphasize sports, some, whatever is important to your child, or music. And then also the culture too, there's a lot of all boys and all girls schools, so that may make a difference for you. And then just like some are real rigorous and focus on education, and it's just some are, so like if you get the more expensive, like how do I say, like private school, they'll, so the education, so let's say in year 9, they want to get them from here to here, right? And so some schools will get them all the way there. And some schools, some of the learners are a little bit slower, they struggle reading or whatever. And so maybe they're only getting to this point, in a given school year. So they're still on the same curriculum, but they're not striving to get all the way to the end because of, the nature of that particular school. And I have, my kids go to a variety of those.
Right.
So.
Let me ask one follow-up. With respect to terms, I understand there are 4 terms per year. So if I'm looking at a website that says $3,000 a term for tuition, then that means I'm paying $12,000 a year for that tuition. Is that true?
Correct. Yes.
Okay. All right.
Yep.
All right.
Okay, Annabelle, go. Sorry, I kind of went off on that one.
That's actually really interesting. I actually used to be a dean at a high school here.
Oh, okay.
That's really interesting. When you and your family moved there, did you have jobs before you went there, like in New Zealand, or you gained employment once you got there?
Great question. Okay, I'll say a couple of things. I'll say what we did and what I know other people have done. Okay, so we have 4 kids, so yeah, we weren't going to come without employment. So we applied for our visa. It took like a year, a little over a year and a half closer. And then we ended up getting our visa approved and a job offer like in the same week. And so then we ended up having to move quickly. And so, yeah, we wouldn't have moved without a job just because we have a lot of people to support. But I know lots and lots of people that have come here. Our first 2 years that we were here, we hosted people constantly. The whole first 2 years, we had people that were just travelers or Americans that were here temporarily, and yeah. So the easiest visa, I believe, to come in on besides the working holiday visa would be the work visa, and that's for 1 year. But once you get the work visa and you're here and you're still working, it's generally pretty easy to get it extended for you. And then a lot of people can only come into the country on the work visa because they weren't able to work out the other details. And then they come, they work, and then you start to establish, because New Zealand is all about who you know. And unfortunately, and so, yeah, so once you kind of get established, sometimes it's just getting here. So your ideal visa is to get the skilled migrant visa because you'll get all the benefits of free healthcare and stuff. With the work visa, you don't. You just, you're just able to work here and travel or go to school. There's all different conditions of that. So that would be fine. I mean, you could do that and then come in and stay longer.
And then how hard is it to find someone to host you? Or are there places to look for hosts, or like where do you find that?
Okay. So you mean like a place to live, or?
Yeah.
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 So,
We're just coming.
yeah, so I literally just had like couch surfers, like people that were coming through. It's just a different, which sounds weird because it's just, as an American, like you don't do that. It's much more dangerous, but here it's just not like that. And so so we originally came for 2 years, and we only stayed for 2 years because that was our intention. We came to give our kids an international experience. And then we went back. Then we lived in the States for 2 years, and then we moved back, and that's just another story. But, and so with the temporary nature of my first move, it was, we just wanted to experience a lot of different things. So we had people over all the time. So in terms of like, if you were to come and stay for a year, you could, a lot of people Airbnb it, or they, will just get a flat. I can give you like the websites where people advertise for flatmates. There's, because most people flat with other people because the real estate is expensive to rent. So that would probably be the best option. And if you're in Wellington, I'm happy to show you around, or, you're welcome to come here until you get your, things figured out. Because we do that, because we've hosted a lot of people that we didn't know. And it was really great. And it ended up being, we never had a bad experience with somebody. And, those people are like family now.
Oh, that's great. It's really nice for you guys.
Well, I have some questions that I think, Annabelle might be also casually interested in. Tell us a little bit about the suburbs that you're close to, Lower and Upper Hutt, that are in Wellington, and then maybe your favorite spot in Wellington.
Okay. We're in Lower Hutt because that is, when I first moved here, I really wanted to be in the city because I'm just a city girl and would love to live in the city. And it's not that big of a city, so it's not intimidating. So if you want to live in the city, I would love to live in a city, but I don't. We ended up making a lot of friends, and our church community was in Lower Hutt, and that's ended up where we moved back the second time as well, because that's where we knew the schools and we were comfortable with that. And then Upper Hutt is another like 20 minutes from here as well. So that one's pretty far from the city, whereas Lower Hutt is 20 minutes from the city. And you can take train, bus, drive, or a ferry. And so, yeah, it's great. It's real easy, and the public transportation is set up really well to get to the city.
And your favorite place in Wellington?
Oh, my favorite place in Wellington. Ooh, that's a good one. I used to work in the city, and I love being in the city. My favorite place in Wellington. I can tell you, Jardin's Grill is like the best steak I've ever had. It's a French restaurant in the Sofitel Hotel, and I don't know, that's what popped in my mind. There's so many things that I love. It's hard to narrow down, but the waterfront is great. Okay. So I've tried, I know some of you guys have been here for a little bit, but I've tried to like Auckland. It's not my favorite, and just the way that the layout of Wellington is really great. And where we used to live was around the bays, into like the seaside town, and I loved it there too. That's like you feel like you're on vacation every day
Where's
because of
that?
like your location, and this cute little seaside town where you just go and you buy your meat from a butcher, you buy your vegetables from the vegetable garden, the farmers that come in and they bring in it's just, I loved it there. But
Where was that?
Where was that?
that's in Eastbourne. In Eastbourne, and that's really great. The reason why I now live in Lower Hutt is just the closeness for the kids' school, because with sports and as they get older and you're just running around, it's too far for me to go in and out. Otherwise, I would, but now I've got all these kids. So anyway.
Would you say it's easier to move alone than with the whole family? Probably, right?
Oh, girl, yeah. Oh, it would be like my dream. Don't tell them. Yes, you'll love it. So many people travel by themselves here. So many people, like maybe like, yes, like we've had both my niece and nephew, they're 20, 30 years old, and they stayed with us for a year and, just traveled around by themselves. Like it's totally safe. It's totally safe for women to do by themselves. Like, obviously not a lot of travelers right now. I'm just talking in normal world, if we ever go back there.
Right. Where did you guys live in the United States before you moved there?
Oh, yes, good question. I'm from Wisconsin, so my family, so close to you. So we're from Milwaukee, and I grew up in the Madison area, and my husband grew up in Chicago, actually, Palatine. So,
okay.
Yeah, so very familiar with where you're from.
Yeah.
And sorry that you're walking into the cold.
It's it's definitely, we're in the winter months for sure. But it's 46 today, and it's supposed to be 70 on Thursday. Chicago. So.
Oh, yeah, that's how it is. I'm just going to go through a couple questions of people that wrote in that I thought were probably good and I think would be interesting. A couple things so that I can answer quickly. The question is about, if you're coming, would you bring appliances, about the converter, that sort of thing, with a different voltage. And so, I've hemmed and hawed, and I've brought some of my waffle makers and my KitchenAid mixer the second time I came. Wouldn't do it again. Because dealing with that step down converter every time I want to use it is like really heavy and really annoying. And I've learned how to find everything you need here. So the amount of money you'd pay to ship it and deal with that, because if you plug it into the outlet one time, and I won't tell you all the things I did wrong, it burns out. It breaks, and you're like, oh my gosh, one time that you're not paying attention. So I wouldn't recommend that.
Tara, did you ship other things that you would recommend shipping? Maybe not appliances, but.
Good question. So the second time we shipped a small amount, not a small, like a bigger, not a full container, but like a fourth of a container. We left all of like the pictures and memories. Like we have like 3 bins back in Wisconsin still, that my parents or friends or whatever. But I shipped pictures and things that just made it feel like us. And so, yeah, I would do that. I don't know, the hassle and the price, and and it just depends. Like some people have personalities where that's really meaningful to them. And so it's hard for me to say for somebody else, but for me, I'm pretty, flexible and change and like, let's just get new ones, kind of thing. So that just kind of depends on how you are. So specific things though, they don't have Belgian waffle makers. I don't know where, Australia, they don't have, they got a little thin thing. So that I shipped somebody asked like a Vegemite, like expensive blenders or something. Yeah, I blew mine out, but so you can get a blender, so it's just, I wouldn't, but it's up to you. And then the other question that they had was like shopping, online shopping. So it's probably good for you to all know that your world with Amazon doesn't exist here.
That is good to know.
I know. That could be a deal breaker. It could be a deal breaker.
Or it might help me out. Stop shopping.
Yeah,
Or help you out. Good perspective, right. Yes, the consumerism is much less here. Much, much less. Let me give you some examples. When I took my kids to school for the first time, for the first, week or two or whatever, everybody's wearing like the same clothes every day. I was like, I love that. Yes. People don't buy tons of clothes, tons of shoes because you can't cheaply, so you don't have it. And people wear things, people put patches on things, people sew here, put it back together, there's places in Wellington where you can take your shoes in and they'll fix them because you're not going to just get new ones because everything's expensive. So it's kind of like that kind of culture. Mm-hmm. And so it's great. So yeah, you can, about 50% of the sellers on Amazon will ship to New Zealand, so you can get it. So you can get anything. And then the Amazon Australia started about 2 years ago, but they didn't do that well, and that website doesn't work well. So you ship from the US, and we just do it. We normally come every year, but obviously we didn't this year. And so I've been dying for like clothes and, so if you come, bring me something.
Oh, we will.
Definitely, no problem.
I'll send my list.
Send a few
and money, no worries.
Peanut butter cups, is that on your list?
What is it?
Reese's peanut butter cups. I remember that. Girl. To get.
Chocolate and peanut butter. They're getting better at that here. Like as I've been here, they have more and more options. It's like amazing. They figured it out. So yeah, chocolate peanut butter.
Those are my favorite too.
Okay.
So you would recommend bringing our clothes, a lot of clothes.
Yes,
not a
bring
lot
your
of shopping.
clothes.
Yeah.
Yes, good point. Bring your clothes. I would say definitely bring your clothes.
All the other stuff, not so much. Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, I blew out a couple of outlets in London with my appliances. So
yeah, so you know.
Yeah.
Get a new straightener, get a new whatever. Just no, don't bring it. Sell it at a garage sale, get some money. And then with the currency transfer, you'll make good money here and you could probably just buy it. So, and I can tell you all the places to get things secondhand, or cheaper, because that's the difference of when you don't live in like a consumer society, because no matter how much money you make, you're not going to be able to buy the same amount of stuff that you did in the US. You're just not. I mean, you won't believe weird things and how much they are. It takes a while. It took like a year, like, how much is that? Like, it is like, I don't even want it that bad to ever pay that much, So how much is an egg on toast? $18? What? Like I just can't, but now I've adjusted and now it's not a big deal. Any last couple questions?
No.
Go ahead, Annabelle.
In the future, if I do think of anything else, is it okay to email you?
Of course. Yes, I'm here to help. Let me help. I know all this stuff. So
my question was, how have you integrated with the community? I mean, have you been able to be involved with the community? On your last vlog or vlog, whatever you call those, vlog, what do you call those things? Anyway, on the last one,
yep.
You ended it with you were over at your neighbor's house. So I've looked at your neighborhood. Those are some pretty big houses,
yes.
separated by distance. So what's how did you meet friends, your particular way? Was it church? You mentioned church.
Yeah. Probably most of my friends were just, getting involved. When you have kids in school, I'd say lots of friends from the kids' school, friends from church are probably some of my closest friends,
right.
From work, just kind of all the normal things that you would make friends with. Right. But people are very friendly. They think they want to know where you're from. They want to know about America for sure, because it's hard to understand these days and there's just lots of questions, and so, so it's not hard to make. People are very, very nice. Like it's like a whole different, like the attitude is that they just want to get to know you.
How about your kids? Were they able to transition easily and make friends somewhat easily?
Yeah, when you're an American, you're the coolest one in the room. So I'm just
That's a
saying, that's how
nice.
my kids would say. They were like, oh, they're like, do you know movie stars? Do you, you know, they think you're all from, you know, they think it's like a small place like here. And so, yeah, no, they didn't have any trouble. You know, like the way that kids are different as well. Like they're used to having a lot of people coming from different cultures. Like it's very normal. A lot from Europe, a lot from South Africa. Not a ton from America. Like there's not a lot of Americans that I actually know here. Um, you know, so otherwise Germany, you know, um, and yeah, so it's just very normal, and just in any of your kids' school, the kids will be used to new people coming in all the time, and yeah, and it's always very interesting. So yeah, they didn't have any trouble.
Oh, that's great. That's good to know.